Welcome to another awesome episode of Encounter, Grow, Witness, the podcast for and by lay ecclesial ministers and mission direct people in the Archdiocese of Detroit, serving and supporting and helping to grow the movement of Unleash the Gospel. We're here with everyone's favorite Encounter, Grow, Witness host, Beth Spizarny. Beth, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Father Steve?
A-okay. God is good. He's given us a beautiful May, and just grateful for that.
Yeah. It's amazing.
And we have this awesome guest with us, our Director of Priestly Vocations, the host of the hit podcast, Men of the Hearts, Father Craig Giera. Hey, Father Craig.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, Father Steve and Beth.
Good to have you.
Glad you're
Great
here.
to be here, yeah.
Yeah.
Big commute for you, I think, from down the hall.
No, I actually live in Divine Child, so
okay,
a little bit away. So.
Which your office is down the hall.
Yeah, I actually live here at the seminary, so it's always a pretty easy commute. So, Beth, Father Craig, thanks for making the trip today and being
pleasure.
together. We are starting a year of prayer for priestly vocations in the Archdiocese of Detroit, so we're going to talk with Father Giera about that in a little bit, but we want to start off. This is the time that people are starting to think about summer, school getting out, planning those vacations, thinking about how to enjoy the beautiful weather that we have been waiting for months to have here in Metro Detroit. And just wanted to kind of kick it off by asking, what is the ideal summer vacation? Beth, what is your ideal summer vacation?
I don't really know. Last year we went to Grand Rapids in Holland, and it was just lovely to see the lake. We went to a great place called Dutch Village, which is just like family-friendly, like amusement park. There's ducks walking around and the carousel, and the kids kind of thought it was like the best thing in the whole world. But I would like to see the ocean.
Did you go to the Meyer Sculpture Garden?
No, we haven't. Is it nice?
Of course.
Yeah, I don't know if my 5-year-old boy would be psyched about it. But I wanted to.
Yeah, there's some really cool art there.
Are there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can climb on some of it, too.
Interactive. Mm-hmm. They have a whole village that looks like a Japanese village, is it? Father Steve has a great story about this.
Father Craig and I went there last year. It was like March last year. We were walking around, and we don't need to get into all the details, but I might have damaged something, thinking I could move, thinking something was a gate, and it wasn't.
It wasn't.
I ripped some... whatever. Like my apologies to the Meyer Garden.
It was nice.
It was not a work of art that I ruined.
And quiet, and we're just sitting there in the lake, and he's like, "This should open up," and he starts just slamming on it. It flies up in the air and like plinks down. There's no way to get it. We just kind of walk away slowly before anybody comes.
No.
Father Craig was very embarrassed to be with me that time.
No,
so
it was okay.
That
was good.
That was fun.
It was good. We didn't see the butterflies though. Everybody was there for the butterfly exhibit, and we're like, we got the zoo. We don't need that.
So anyway,
Nice.
Grand Rapids, Dutch
Holland.
Village.
Great time.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Father Craig, ideal summer vacation other than destroying outdoor sculptures with me?
I like going to museums. So hitting to a city somewhere where I can sleep in really, really late, drink a pot of coffee, listen to music, watch some TV, YouTube videos, read, then go out to the art museum. Oh, get a breakfast. Breakfast is important on vacation. And then just sleep in. Yeah. Do nothing else. Yeah.
Can you really drink a pot of coffee?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
How like pretty quickly?
No, I mean, throughout the day.
Okay. Do you drink it from the pot, or do you use a transporting vessel like a mug?
Well, when I'm on vacation, I have to go somewhere and get it, so I don't know if it's necessarily a pot, but, a number of cups, especially if I'm at breakfast.
Does 1 cup, what happens if you have 1 cup?
It's not enough.
Okay.
I'm not fully satisfied.
Will those around you recognize the difference between 1 cup and full pot?
I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know.
Need to do more research and collect some more data on this.
Yes.
I'll start working on that project. What about you?
Yeah, I really love, I think like most of us love being outside in the summer, the beautiful weather we have, especially here in Michigan, we go through a long winter, difficult weather. So any chance to be outside. I've had the opportunity to go to a number of national parks for vacation with various friends, sometimes with family. And I just love our national parks. So there's one about as far away in Michigan you can get to Isle Royal, which is about a 10-hour drive and then a 3-hour ferry ride at the end of the drive, way north of the Keweenaw Peninsula in the UP and did a little backpacking trip there a few years ago. Really loved it. So
Sounds like my personal hell. Right? Because then you talk about you have to like sleep with strangers in a little cabin or something like that.
Strangers?
Yeah, didn't you all had to like bunk down because of...
No. I mean, so you're sleeping outside, it's campsites and whatnot, but there's lots of people around. It was a fantastic trip. So I really love being outside, love doing some camping, or at least doing some hiking.
What's the longest you've gone camping?
Like backpacking?
Okay.
Five nights backpacking.
Right. Sure.
I did the Camino, which isn't really backpacking because you're staying indoors. We did that for 11 nights. And then otherwise, tent camping, driving to a site and being there. Done that a week a couple of times.
Okay. Nice.
So,
nice.
Yeah. But hopefully all of our listeners get some opportunities this summer to get some vacation, some rest, relaxation, go to a museum if you have to. But
air conditioning, I love it.
But, the summer is a time to just experience God's grace in our lives in a way that oftentimes we might be busy during the rest of the year. And I know sometimes summer can be a chance to do that as a family or as an individual. But we really want to talk today about the priestly vocations and hear from Father Craig about that.
Awesome. Yeah, we've got the Year of Prayer 2 coming up. But, obviously you've been the Director of Priestly Vocations for 2.5 years, I think.
Correct.
So, what is a vocation director?
A vocation director is someone who walks with a man trying to discover what their vocation in life is. I mean, it's as simple as that. I mean, it can get really complicated with all these different, things we can do with discernment weekends or discernment days and, what different programs we should have in our parishes and different things like that. But it's just as simple as just walking with someone and letting them know what God might be doing in their lives. I think that's really what it is, an art and accompaniment with working with young men of, okay, what's God telling you in prayer? And let's go from there. It's as simple as that, but as complicated as that as well, because, the spiritual life is not necessarily the most easiest thing in the world. So,
True.
So if a young man is thinking about the priesthood, and when you say young man, that could be kids in high school, college, what's the kind of range you would...
Yeah, well, we're not going to accept anybody in high school, although I did find out that there are still a couple high school seminaries in the nation that you can send your child to if that's something that you think would be helpful.
But not here in Detroit.
Not here in Detroit, no. But after high school, so if a man is thinking about it in high school, junior, senior, although we do have discernment days for high schoolers, and they'll come to the seminary just all day Saturday. We'll have Mass. The Archbishop has come to those and talked to them. We talk a little bit about discernment. We have a holy hour, a meal with the seminarians, just to kind of get a feel of what seminary life is like. For the older guys, we do have a discernment weekend, and that's about 4 days with the seminarians. So they'll come on a Thursday evening with the all-seminarian holy hour, where one of the faculty members usually preaches. Then there's usually some type of refreshments afterwards and kind of getting to know the seminarians and talking to them about their vocation stories. They get to go to class with them on Friday. Just kind of just be a part of the community and see what life would be like here at the seminary. Because, I mean, it's hard to discover your vocation just like, I already know I'm going to be this type of priest and do this in my life. And it's just like, let's just take the next step. Is seminary life for you? Can you see yourself here? Do you picture yourself living here? That's a good step in the right direction,
Yeah.
We don't even have to have it all figured out.
What's the age range? So you said if someone's in later high school, they might reach out to you and you could begin that conversation, you're saying.
Yeah.
But mostly it's people after high school, right, in college or beyond. What would the age range be most of the time of the young men, or maybe not so young, that you talk to?
Yeah, I think mostly I talk to men that are out of high school or usually finishing up college or in the middle of college somewhere, and they feel this kind of inkling that God might be calling me to the priesthood. I don't know what to do, kind of scared about it, or I really don't have that much of a desire to be a priest, but somehow I feel like God is calling me.
Yeah.
Can you help me out? And that's the type of conversations that I have. But I've talked with high school kids as well, and maybe worked with their parents or worked with them of like, okay, what do you need to do to prepare yourself if that's something that you want to do is apply to the seminary right out of high school? And the same with a man who's in college. What do you want to do if you want to apply, if you're going to finish your degree? Or does it make sense, if you really feel called to the priesthood, to leave wherever you're at in college and come to the seminary? Because of course, seminary is an accredited college as well. So
It is, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of your credits will transfer over.
I hear the faculty is very good at Sacred Heart.
They're the best.
Some
They're
of
the
them.
best.
They've got a new guy. I don't know.
Not all of them. Still figuring everyone out.
Yeah.
Sorry, Beth.
What do you look for in candidates, and what are some of the basic things you encourage them to try to cultivate or develop?
Prayerfulness, I think, is really, really important, because, you come to the seminary and prayer is a lot of your day. They'll ask you for a holy hour every single day, Mass every single day, hopefully doing a rosary every single day. So if you're not used to that, it could be quite shocking. So a man who's seeking for truth and really trying to understand what God is saying to him will just get in the habit of praying a little bit more. And that's sort of kind of going back all the way to the beginning of just why I like vacation like that, is because a lot of my day is prayer, even on a day off or a vacation. Praying your holy hour, doing Mass, praying your office, you got a couple hours in already and you're like, all right.
Prayer and coffee.
Prayer and coffee.
Like, yeah. So prayerfulness would be one character. It sounds like the most important one, right?
I think one of the most important ones, definitely.
Loves the Lord and loves spending time with the Lord.
Seeking truth. And then also a heart of service, wanting to do something like, do you do anything at your parish? Are you an altar server? Do you read? Are you a lector? Do you help out at the soup kitchen? Do you help St. Vincent de Paul? Something like that. If he's not doing anything for his community, that could be really hard to discover if you're called to the priesthood, if you're not doing anything that would be in service of others.
Kind of like trying to run a marathon when you haven't done any training, right? When you haven't done little steps or... You can always dream about it, but until you're doing it, you don't know if you like it or not. Like in my head, I'm the best snowboarder there is, right? Like I can jump off jumps, I can do half pipe stuff. Yeah. I've never snowboarded in my life, but in my head, I'm the best, right? So we need to get out of our head, I think, is what I'm telling some of these young men. I think they think about it so much and they kind of drive themselves crazy of like, should I or shouldn't I? Should I or shouldn't I? You got to kind of just move in the right direction and say, make a choice, It might be the wrong choice, but at least you know now, and then you can go in a different direction. Yeah. It's a lot like dating, too, when you think of, like, okay, you could see this beautiful girl that you're attracted to, or maybe you work with, or you're in class with, and you think, wow, she seems really great. And you ask, well, have you ever talked with her? Have you ever spent time with her or gone out on a date with her? And, the version in your head might be different than the version in reality. And so I think that's really good advice to do things at your parish or do things in the church to see, would my life of service for God and for the church in this way, especially at a parish, is that something I would really enjoy, something that fits with my gifts, my talents, my desires, things like that. So, Father Craig, I think that's really good advice.
It's creating experiences, and experiences help you lead you in the right direction. Like I really love helping the poor. I really love the soup kitchen. I love sitting down with some of these guys afterwards and talking to them. If that's something that you really enjoy doing, you might have a heart for service right there. This could be leading you to the priesthood. Until you try it, you'll never know. I was talking to a young man the other day. He was saying how he has been discerning the CFRs, and they're all about like extreme poverty and everything like that. And he's like, I really enjoyed it. I really liked it.
So like, CFRs are a religious order, correct? A kind of Franciscans, a branch of Franciscans, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
but they're to a strict order where they're a little bit more poor than I don't know all of it, but they live a life of poverty, right? And he really enjoyed it, and he was with them for a number of months, and I was like, that's awesome. That's great data that you received, because in my head, I could do that with a cup of coffee in my hand as I'm like in the air conditioning room, but I know I couldn't do it for my whole life. So I knew I wasn't called to a religious order. It could be as simple as that. And sometimes I tell guys, you know what, I couldn't pick a religious order because I couldn't pick a habit that I liked the best. I know that sounds silly,
Yeah.
But that and living with other people
Yeah.
was like, it's a no deal, right? So I knew it was going to be diocesan priesthood.
So the two distinctions here, religious order and diocesan priesthood, right?
Correct.
Okay. And what's the main difference between the two, other than you don't have to live with others and you don't have to pick
Which
a
is funny
habit?
because I do live with others right now, but I do have my own separate space. Religious order, you live, in community with a number of different men in that religious order. And you live out a specific charism, whatever that is, whether it be like the Dominicans, who are the order of preachers, and they teach, or the Franciscans, who help out the poor. And you live that lifestyle together as a community, and that could be anywhere in the world, wherever province that you're a part of.
Yeah.
Whereas a diocesan priest, you would be most likely 98% a parish priest, and you would stay in the Detroit diocese, or whatever diocese you were studying for.
Okay. And being in a parish is the focus.
And we make promises. We don't make vows, and one of them, we don't make a vow of poverty at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Simplicity, but like not poverty.
Yeah. Yeah. Father Craig, what are the steps towards a man? So take a guy 20 years old in college saying, I think, got this itch about the priesthood or this inclination. How does a guy go from there to actually entering the seminary?
Yeah. So first, I think, as most of the new generation will probably look around online and look at different religious orders, look at different videos about priesthood and discernment, and just, if you're excited about that, then there's something there. Keep on looking and get excited more and more about it. But when you get to a point where like, I can't do any more on my own, reach out to somebody, reach out to your pastor, reach out to your family. If you feel weird and you don't want people to know in your life, like I didn't tell my family or anybody really in my life until I was sure that I was going to apply to the seminary. So reach out to me, and then we can begin a conversation. We'll probably set up a phone conversation and kind of just talk a little bit, answer questions and things like that. Maybe invite you out to discernment weekend or a discernment group where we get together and just talk about, what discernment is about and what's going on in our lives, and kind of seeing what other guys are going through, and you kind of relate to them as well. After that, maybe come and have another meeting at the seminary, get a tour of the seminary, see what it's like. And from there, maybe put together a plan of life for the man. If he's not praying enough, or if he's not involved in his parish, get him connected to his pastor, to the different things that are going on in the parish. And then if he feels like, okay, I really like this, I want to kind of move forward, I have a really in-depth conversation with him and kind of look at all aspects of his life, because your life is a little bit of an open book, really, when you're applying, because it's a relationship, like you said, Father Steve. So not only is he discerning, but we're discerning as well. The church, to see if this is the right fit for him, and if this is the right fit for the people of God. Will this man be a good priest? So we open up his life, and I look at that, and if everything is okay and everything seems like we're in the right place at the right time, then we'll move forward with the application. So the application itself is a large application. Again, it's about 20 pages of different questions. You need to get a number of different references, your transcripts. There's a physical exam, psychological exam, essays that you need to write. So it's pretty in-depth, to apply. And then we take all of that information. Once that's all compiled, I am the advocate. So we have an admissions meeting with the seminary, the formators there, and they'll be looking at all of this information, and then I'll speak on behalf of the man to hopefully get accepted to the seminary.
When men first reach out, how many of them express some trepidation or fear? Or
I think for the most part, everybody, really.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's like, I don't know, this has been here, it's come and gone, I feel it, I didn't want to move on with this relationship because I felt maybe I was called to the priesthood, or I don't know if I really want to be a priest, but somehow I keep on getting this in prayer. So yeah, there's a lot of that.
Do you have any advice or suggestions for what we as just lay Catholics, speaking for the lay Catholics, can do to help dispel any of that? I mean, I realize some of it is, you can't, it is, I'm sure there's a lot to think about, because it's sort of like jumping off a diving board, even just to pick up the phone and call you, I would guess. Yeah. But I'm sensitive that I hear us talking in different Catholic spaces about, we sort of have this continual sense that, well, God doesn't want me to be happy. So I'm sure if I really ask God what he wants, he'll send me to be a missionary in Africa and be poor and not have any of my friends or any of the things that seem to make me happy there.
Yeah.
But I'm just sensitive that we use those. We joke about that sort of thing in our everyday conversations. And I'm just wondering culturally, or if you have any ideas for how we could just build a culture that's more supportive of vocations, more supportive of just trusting God and his plan for our lives.
Yeah, I think it just needs to start at a young age. So all aspects of ministry needs to be injected with vocations. If we're doing marriage prep, talk about, raising kids. What are our kids going to do when they grow up? What is God asking of them? Baptismal preparation, talking about all these different things. And then especially as the kids go through religious education or through Catholic schools, that they hear this word vocations over and over and over, that it's not something that's sort of pushed back. I never heard that before. Is that a trade school? What does vocations mean? Is I'm going to be a plumber or something like that? Because they've never heard it. And then no one actually sits there and hey, have you ever thought about being a priest? I never received that in all my years of religious education. No one said, hey, have you ever thought about the priesthood? That just wasn't ever brought up. So talking about it is as simple as that.
Yep.
Well, speaking of talking about it, the Archbishop called for a year of prayer for priestly vocations, and that is getting started pretty soon. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have any man being ordained to the priesthood this year. And it's been getting harder and harder to get guys into the seminary, and we're kind of seeing a slow decline of the amount of ordinations that we're having. And of course, there are more guys who are retiring or getting sick than guys being ordained. And in a few short years, about 10 years, we're going to literally have about half the amount of priests that we have today.
Yeah.
And if you just think about that right now, half the amount of priests that we have today. Yeah. Like, what is our parish life going to look like?
Very different.
Are all the masses that we love going to, are they always going to be around? Or is it going to be easy to get a hold of Father when we want marriage prep or we need confession or different things like that? So we really need to bring this to God and saying, hey, we need more men. But I think the average person sitting in the pews does not feel the priest shortage. Right? Because I think guys fill in the gap. They love doing it. They want to serve. They love their parishioners. So if I have to do 5-6 masses on the weekend, I'll do 5-6 masses on the weekend. And that funeral that comes in, and that marriage prep, and those confessions, and then you want me to do this over here and teach over here. And I think guys are going to get burnt out living that. It's not a healthy way to live. And while the sacrifice is great and commendable, at the same time, it's not sustainable. So I think what this year of prayer is going to do, first, of course, our prayers are strong. Prayers are powerful. If we believe with faith, we can move mountains, and we're moving something harder than a mountain, right? We're moving someone's heart. But I've talked to young men, and I'm like, well, why do you think God is calling you to the priesthood? Well, every time my priest talks about it at Mass, or every time we pray for vocations, I feel something going on in my life, in my soul. So we need to be doing that more. So our prayers are going to be super powerful. Throughout this whole year, we're going to be praying the same prayer at all the Sunday Masses as a community, which is going to be awesome. We have holy hours set up as well. We want rosaries to be prayed, fasting on First Fridays for this intention. Our prayer is going to be strong. Secondly, what it's going to do is it's going to bring to attention these numbers that most people don't know. Why are we praying for more priests? I haven't felt any shortage of priests. Well, let's have a conversation about that. And I think it will get people to say, okay, this is important. We need to do something about it, right? And I think we could honestly say, well, we need more marriages. Yeah, of course. We need more religious sisters. Yeah, of course. But what do we need right now? We need more priests.
I think you're right. The fact that we don't have anyone being ordained for the Archdiocese of Detroit this year, for the first time, I don't know, in my lifetime, in our lifetime, it's been maybe the first time ever, but certainly in a long, long time, should highlight us to the radical need we have for more priests in the Archdiocese of Detroit.
Lansing did a holy hour once when they didn't have any ordinations, and the next year they had 12 guys come into the seminary.
Yeah.
And then another diocese did that, and they doubled the amount of guys in the seminary within a year. So I have great hopes. I hope to be like super busy with phone calls and meetings.
Sounds great. Yeah.
So when is this year? When does it start?
It's going to start on the Vigil of Pentecost. Normally when we would have our ordinations at 10 o'clock on Saturday morning, we're inviting all the pastors and their parishioners to come and to celebrate this holy hour, to sit before the Lord and to plead on behalf of, everybody here in the Archdiocese. We need more priests. And then pray for courage for these young men and conviction, right? Because before, and I don't know, during your time, it used to be try it on, right? Hey, try it on. Like, we're way past the try it on day. We're like, we need you now. And I think that's what men need in the world today, right? I mean, they need a challenge. They need an adventure. They need a problem to solve. Well, come to the priesthood, you'll have all of that.
Right.
So this will run June 4th this year, right?
Correct.
So
all the way to Pentecost next year.
So Pentecost of 2023.
Correct.
Okay. And we'll be praying all throughout the Archdiocese that the Lord, I think you put it very beautifully, right? That God gives the men courage that they need to respond to their call, conviction and courage and confidence. Lots of other C words, I'm sure, I can't think of right now. But he also, the fact that he kind of emboldens us, that maybe there's someone in our parish who could benefit from a word of encouragement, like you talked about, saying, have you ever thought of being a priest?
I got that all the time. Did you get that?
I got that sometimes, yep.
I got that all the time. People would call me father. And I'd just be in the grocery store. It wasn't even at church. And I'd get something down from the shelf, and the person would be like, thank you, Father. Why'd you call me father? And just something was there. And
were you wearing priest clothes when you shouldn't? Or,
jeans and a black T-shirt. Jeans and a black T-shirt.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know what I get often now when I wear my collar to different places?
What do you get?
Do you work here?
Oh, yeah, you've told me this, right?
Do you work here?
And what do you say?
I work everywhere. How can I help you?
Beautiful. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they look me up and down. They're like, nah, you don't work here. But I'll help you. What do you need?
That's so funny. Oh, man. We had a priest come and give a talk at Shrine, I don't know, in the last few months. I forget when it was. But he mentioned that he had been at Shrine for some time. And then when the Archbishop, or when there was some call to go elsewhere, he was like delighted to get out of Shrine. And the parishioners were emailing me like, why did he like want to get out of Shrine? And they're like, I mean, are we terrible? And it's just a busy community. That's why, But I think that when I kind of shared a little bit of what a priest day might look like, they had no idea, right? Because it's not often, like a lot of a priest's life would be hidden to your average parishioner. They would see Mass, they would see confessions, but they rarely would be in the meeting planning the funeral or the meeting for the wedding or the problem with the committee or
homily
the anointing,
prep.
Homily prep, all those other things, So I do think part of it is going to be helping to celebrate and honor all the different sacrifices that our priests are making, which I think many of our parishioners aren't aware of.
Yeah. And every vocation comes with a sacrifice,
That's
right?
true.
You're married, there's a sacrifice there. You become a priest, there's a sacrifice there. But if we're called to that specific vocation, God's going to see us through those sacrifices.
That's
and
right.
actually, it's going to bring us life, right?
That's
It's the
right.
paradox. When we lose our life is when we gain it.
Yeah,
Right? We need to lose our life more.
we do.
So on the Detroit Priestly Vocations website, there's a whole microsite or whatever, a whole other site.
A landing page called Pray for
Landing
Vocation.
page.
A landing
That's
page, prayforvocations.com.
And it gives a number of ways that we can support vocations, right?
Yeah.
Both individually, but also speaking to our audience of lay ecclesial ministers, parish mission support, mission direct teams, and those. So some of those ways are praying as a community or praying individually. And you recommend praying the Luminous Mysteries.
I do. I think the Blessed Mother is the surest way to Jesus Christ, and she's the one who saw the wine run out at the wedding in Cana, and she notices that we need more priests. So I think devotion to the Blessed Mother is so incredibly strong. That's why I consecrated the vocation office, all of our work, everything that we do on December 8th, the Immaculate Conception, when I first became a vocation director. So prayers to the Blessed Mother, the more the better. But I think the Luminous Mysteries, I think, fit well with priesthood. So when people pray the Luminous Mysteries, I hopefully pray them for priestly vocations. There's also a holy hour we created. You can actually get pamphlets and things to pray for vocations that way as well. You can invite me out to your community and to pray the Mass and to talk about vocations. You can invite me out to your schools as well, or religious education. I have done all of that as well and talked to the kids about vocation. So, and while I do, well, of course, my job is to get more priests, but I do talk about all vocations when I come out, because we're all called. So it's not like, I get to, Mass and everybody can check out because they're not called to be a priest. No, I talk about everything. So
yeah. Yeah, and there's a whole section about what your parishes can do. Sign up to offer a Holy Mass for priestly vocations, Vianney vocations, vocation lessons, so that any kids at various ages can start to think about it and imagine, if God might be calling them to religious life or to be a priest. So a ton of resources here at DetroitPriestlyVocations.com that parishes can find ways to participate very actively in the year of prayer for priestly vocations.
Here's a silly question. Which parish staff position is responsible for the year of prayer for priestly vocations?
Well, we actually created a whole vocation plan that is going into the playbook for family and parishes.
Awesome.
So with the Director of Families will be in charge of vocations, but specifically one priest from every family is going to be in charge of priestly vocations, and they'll meet with me quarterly, and hopefully we'll think of creative ways to work together and to get guys together. I think that's important. It's 71% of the recently ordained men were asked by their priests to become, consider a vocation to the priesthood. So we need to get the priests together with the young men to talk about it, to see what priestly life is all about.
That's awesome.
It was really helpful for me. My pastor was from Europe, so the main meal was in the afternoon, and of course I like to sleep in. So I would go to the noon Mass, and then afterwards he'd say, "Come to dinner with us," and he'd always have dinner in the rectory, and there'd be like 3 or 4 priests, a couple seminarians, some staff members, and just to sit around that table and to just see them talk, and I'm like, oh, he can be funny. I didn't know he could be funny. And that guy's being a jerk right now. I didn't know priests can be a jerk.
Oh no!
I got to see.
I don't think Beth knew that either.
No, I've never.
I got to see the humanity, and that's exactly what the Men of the Hearts podcast that I put out is really all about. It's just this idea of trying to sit around the kitchen table, of talking about vocation stories, like you're a fly on the wall, or if you were invited to that dinner, that you can hear a bunch of priests talking about their life. It's as simple as that.
Beth had a really good point as we were talking, preparing for this, just thinking about what are ways that we as priests, Father Craig, you and I, can better collaborate with lay ecclesial ministers, and lay ecclesial ministers can better collaborate with priests. I think that's really helpful to think about that, to say, there are certain activities, certain things, especially sacramentally, that only the priests can do. And that's a gift to the church. But there are many things that I think as priests we need to make sure we're acknowledging, building up, and supporting the work that our lay ecclesial ministers do. And I think that's such a crucial relationship, especially on the ground in a parish, to make sure that there's a real appreciation of the different gifts that each one brings.
Yeah. I would say invite the priest. Not all of us are like Father Steve, very extroverted and want to be on.
An online test told me I'm an introvert. So, no, I'm kidding.
To me, it's incredibly hard to just walk into a classroom uninvited and to be like, "Hey, kids, let's talk about this and do this." It's just not my style. I can't do it. And I think a lot of priests are like that. Whatever is going on in the parish, and just invite the priest into those moments can be very powerful, and it gives us life to know that we're needed in those situations, rather than just kind of showing up and saying, "I want to talk about this, and I want to do this, or I want to do that." Hey, Father, can you come to baptismal prep and maybe just talk about the vocation to the priesthood and how that relates to this child getting baptized? I'd love to do that, but I'm just not going to necessarily be the one to think that up.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Well, one of the things I've learned from Beth over the past year or so in doing this is just the importance of gratitude, and saying thank you can go a long way. So as priests, making sure that we are conscious of thanking our staffs, lay ecclesial ministers that we work with, that we're that we are expressing in word as well as our deeds the gratitude we have for the gifts and the sacrifices they make for the kingdom.
Yeah, and I would say the same from lay ecclesial ministers, right? That we have to be also thanking our priests for all the great stuff that you guys are doing, even the things that we don't see. Even the things we don't see. I was one time at a youth retreat, and the priest was doing the Steubenville-style Eucharistic procession and bringing the Lord around each individual and like pausing in front of each individual teen. And there were 500 teens there. It took a long time, and I was so. And I mean, it was also a very important thing. Everyone could see this priest, see his vocation, And afterwards, when we were friends, I had a minute to thank him. I thanked him for all the workouts that I knew he was doing at the gym, so that he could carry the monstrance for, it might have been 2 hours, and he laughed and he was like, boy, I never thought about that as like a part of this, but yeah, my faithfulness there is what made this possible, but I think the more we can thank each other, even for the things that we don't see, the more trust can grow and the more we can find space to do great things together, Yeah.
Mutual respect as well,
Absolutely.
I think Father Bernie used to talk about just loving your priests, because we could talk bad about priests as well. And there are bosses or, they do something in the parish that we don't necessarily like. Or even I remember as a kid, we used to make fun of the priest because he couldn't sing really well. And it could have just been my mom just saying like, don't talk about the priest that way because the priest brings us the Eucharist. No, but we all laughed because he sounded like Kermit the Frog when he sang.
Right.
I had a kid come up to me this week and tell me that. It's like, Father, your voice isn't very good.
Oh, jeez. Oh, man. Wow.
It was humbling.
Yeah.
But as we kind of bring it to a close, I thought it'd be helpful just to think about a priest who's been a big influence in each of our lives and as a way of building them up, thanking them, or just kind of sharing their witness. Beth, you were talking about someone, a priest in your life.
When I was a student at University of Michigan, I'd had this big conversion from the Protestant space. I had never left the church, but I intellectually couldn't defend it. So I was going to a lot of churches on Sunday. Yeah. And anyway, I finally read my way into understanding the beauty of the teachings of the church and the fullness that we have. So I, was for sure staying Catholic, but I didn't really know anyone my age. I didn't have any connections. There wasn't really a lot happening for folks my age. And anyway, we had a new priest come to town, Father Bob, and, just working with him and him getting to know me. And we ended up launching a young adult ministry. And he was just a huge mentor in my life, helped me go as a missionary to India and work with Mother Teresa sisters and just continue to care about my life for many years. So, I think I say to him often that, like, I loved the teachings of the church, but you and your ministry helped me to love the church, like the actual church, the people in it, and all the good there. So
that's awesome. Great.
Yeah.
Father Craig?
Yeah, it was, I did a missionary trip to Ukraine when I first came back to my faith. And I didn't know what I was doing there because I didn't really have anything to say. Maybe it was just my witness of being a young man in the Ukraine, because the only people that were in the church were the older ladies. But the priests that I saw there were all the Polish priests that were serving in the Ukraine. They were all super, super young, on fire for the faith. Loved what they were doing in such an extreme, difficult situation. Like their parishes were 50 miles apart. It was the size of a living room. A lot of the churches were turned into community centers. One was a slaughterhouse. One was just a barn. And to see these guys bring the faith back into this into these people's lives was amazing, and they were happy. I remember we were driving like 10 hours. He was driving us somewhere across all of Ukraine, and he's just sitting there looking at the sunset going, I love my vocation. I love my vocation.
Wow.
And I just remember that, and I'm like, yeah, there's something to this sacrifice and love at the same time.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's great. When I was a kid, my brother was in a religious order, and we would spend time with them occasionally. And there was one priest in that order, Father Ed, who, I was probably in middle school, and he was just the happiest and the smartest priest I'd ever met, and so joyful. And I remember him talking about a back pain he had, that at times just to stand up would be incredibly painful. And how he would think about uniting himself with Christ on the cross, and that his pain was nothing compared to what Christ gave for him, and that he was thankful that the Lord allowed him to participate in the Passion in that way. And, the middle school version of me just thought like, whoa, that is intense. And that is intense. And it was really beautiful. And I just remember, like, even now thinking back, Father Ed being just one of the best priests I met. It was so joyful in the midst of suffering and challenge and having to deal with a bunch of snotty middle schoolers for these occasions. And just such a good witness to the joy of the priesthood. I'm very grateful for Father Ed.
That's awesome.
Great. Well, I know Beth always has us do this at the end, so Father Craig, thank you for your vocation and your work in promoting more vocations to the priesthood.
Thank you.
Thank you for both of your works. And congratulations to you.
Beth got her master's recently, so we are partying, celebrating, and giving thanks to God for all the work that went into that.
Yes. If you have any suggestions for my newly acquired free time, I'm open for suggestions, dear listeners.
But what a huge accomplishment, and it was being a mom and working full time, and like
many years.
This is many years of work.
A lot of sacrifice.
This is true.
Congrats.
Thanks.
This has been the Encounter Grow Witness podcast. This is a podcast by and for those who work in ministry, supporting each other to grow in our relationship with Christ and the church to enable us to be better witnesses of his love in the world. Let's be better fishers of men together. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this monthly podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcasts.